Joe, when you go back to the 2012 playoff run, what was it about that team um, going into that run that you guys were able to capitalize on? And for you personally, how were you feeling going into those playoffs? And did you catch kind of a hot streak at the right time?
We had been through so much as a team at that point, so I think we were able to draw on a lot of that to have confidence. Um, when you look back at that one, we lost 3 games at the end of the year right in a row, but I think we were 9-2 going into that. So like you can say that we hit a hot streak for sure, but like we were just a really good football team for a few years there. And we had a lot of confidence because of that. We had been through a lot together. Not that everybody was the same, but there was a lot of key guys on that team that had been around for a while and been through a handful of playoff games. So we were battle tested in that respect. I just think every team's got its own little unique personality, and that one had it. And like I said, there was a lot of things that went into why we were able to have the confidence to get through it.
Obviously, the teams are different, but this team has gone through a lot too to get to this point. Is that something that you guys can draw on?
I think so. Yeah, it always helps to go through tough times and truly be tested, whether that's injuries or close games, finding your identity, things like that. They all help.
You had a really unbelievable run individually that postseason. I mean, I was at just about every one of those games. And was that the best you can remember playing?
A bunch of things just came together right at the right time. We kind of manipulated our front a little bit with who was starting in our offense, on our offensive line, and I think that really was a big part of it. And then things just kind of go your way. There's a little bit of fate that's involved there. I mean, we got off to a good start with a home game against Indy, and then went and played a crazy game in Denver, and then we went back to New England where we had some history. I mean, that was the 3rd playoff game I think I had played up there at that point. So like I said, I just in that unique instance, we had been up there a bunch of times, and we had lost an AFC Championship game there the year before. So there was definitely things that we could draw on at that time.
You prepared to face opponents, a second time a lot in your career. Is there anything different going into this week that you do differently?
You just go prepare. I mean, I've said it to some of the guys, like, there's not this daunting task of like getting ready to prepare for 20 games. You're preparing for one game, and that's it. You're promised one game here. So I think I think that's something good to fall back on. And like I think you can get comfort in that. One game. Prepare as hard as you can for 1 week, and then when that's all done, we'll pick up and see where we're at. As far as playing these guys a couple weeks ago, I'm sure there's things that we'll take, from the time that we played them, but each game is its own unique challenge, and these guys are a good football team, and we're excited for the opportunity to go play a tough game.
How important do you think playoff experience is, and in what ways does it help, having been there before?
I'm sure there's a level of importance to it in terms of letting the football game come to you, not necessarily riding too high and riding too low when things happen, realizing that it is another football game. But ultimately, the most important thing in playoff games is executing your fundamentals to the highest degree, and I don't think that necessarily takes experience to do. It just takes you staying level-headed and playing within yourself.
Joe, how do you account for your personal record in the postseason on the road is second only to Brady as far as number of wins on the road? How do you account for that?
Like I said, I think it just goes back to doing the basics the right way, not overthinking what it means to go on the road, just going and playing a good football game, and when the dust settles, like I said, you pick your head up and you see where you are.
Can you think back to your
I think anytime you get to be in the playoffs and win football games, there's some party that takes pride in that, no matter where it is. This is what we go to work for every day, is to be in this position and to play these types of games. So I think we should all hold our head high. Like, we earned the right to be playing this Saturday, and you should, gain something from that. But like I said, once you lace them up and once you're actually out in the field, none of that matters.
Joe,
Can you
the
think back
Texans
to-
found out. The Texans found out on Christmas Eve what happens when they don't pressure you. How do you feel they'll adjust to that?
I'm not in their heads. I think that we'll have our plan, and as long as we execute our plan, then all that stuff will kind of fall into place. Listen, when you play in this league, a lot of these games come down to getting pressure on the quarterback, and there's multiple ways to do that. Do you do that with your front? Do you do that by putting pressure with your, by bringing linebackers, by bringing secondary guys? So we'll see. I mean, our offensive line has done a great job since I've been here, and like I said, there's going to be times where teams come try to pressure you, and those usually lead to opportunities if you're on top of your stuff. So it's just part of the game. Every week you have to be ready for teams to do that, and that's part of prepping as an offense. And like I said, I'm not in Houston, and I don't really know what's going through those guys' heads. So we're just going to prepare like we always do.
Joe, can you think back to
CJ Stroud this season, and did you get to watch him at all on Saturday night? And what are your thoughts on him going against you guys this time?
I've only gotten to watch him a little bit, but he's been really impressive. Just from afar, like in terms of his decision making and the way everything's kind of looked. Like you can tell he can throw the ball. I didn't get a chance. It's not like I follow college football a ton. And Ohio State always has somebody, it seems like, the last few years that are getting drafted in the top of the draft in the spring. But it seems like he has a lot of arm talent, and the impressive part is the fact that he's been able to make really good decisions all year. So a lot of credit to him for sure.
Can you think back to your first playoff game, Joe? Were you overwhelmed at all, or did you have that attitude that you're talking about now?
You know what? We played Miami. We were down in Miami. We played them earlier in the year and played a good game against them. So I think we just, I can't remember the exact emotions that were going through my body, but I'm sure they were pretty much the same that I deal with today. I don't remember being overwhelmed or anything. We had a good football team that year, and like I said, we had played them and beat them earlier in the year, so I think we drew, maybe something from that. I was probably naive to a certain extent because it probably didn't matter, but as a rookie, you're just trying to you truly are trying to keep things as simple as possible and do the basics. And I think, like I said earlier, I think that does lend itself well to playing your best football in the playoffs. So.
Joe, when Amari has a game like he did in your first trip to Houston, how different do you expect them to approach him to, not let that happen again?
Yeah, listen, I mean, I think anytime somebody plays like that, you're definitely gonna go into that game and say, all right, we're not getting beat by that guy again. But once again, it's not my job to worry too much about that. It's my job to go out there and play on Saturday and just do what the defense tells me, and you don't want to overthink it either. You don't want to. You don't want to take your head off of Amari just because you think that they're going to have some gigantic plan for him. We got to be ready for everything.
What were the benefits of the Cincinnati weekend to you?
Well, I think ultimately it's just this team has gone through a lot, and I think just as a whole, being able to get guys that have been dealing with stuff for the last 20 weeks, since they've come back for training camp, give them a chance to kind of get off of their feet again and get a little mental breather and get ready for this week.
Is Houston's defense, when you study them going into this game, does that defense look any different from when you played them on Christmas Eve to these last couple of weeks here? There's
slight differences. They have some different guys that are back or a little bit more banged up. Like we just talked about Amari, maybe they'll do certain things with them, but I think this defense believes in what they do ultimately, and they're going to do what they think they do well. They're going to do that. So there's always going to be little wrinkles, but it's our job to attack and prepare for what they do well, and then adjust from there.
Joe, you've been talking about January football since you got here and what it's like. Do you address the team this week about any of that, or has that just kind of been addressed in the process of being here?
Well, you know, we had a team meeting yesterday, and we were able to address that a little bit, and you know, and just hear from some different stories about, you know, what playoff football is all about and stuff like that. And you know, how much does that ultimately mean? You never know. But it is cool to hear some different perspectives on, you know, on what people feel like it takes to win at this time of the year. So
you did speak.
a little bit.
What does it take to win?
Last one.
I'll say it again. You know, everybody, you know, everybody puts so much thought into what it takes to win these games, and it's doing the simple things the best you can, and just playing good fundamental football. And this is the time of the year where that stuff shows up. You know, obviously there's going to be plays made, and guys are going to make a name for themselves that, you know, you know, something's going to happen over the next 5 weeks that we're going to remember forever. But and those are the things that you kind of see. But it's just about playing fundamental physical football and playing a full 60 minutes. And no matter what's going on at the moment, being able to keep the blinders on and keep moving forward.
Did you play D'Amico? You're almost the same age. Can you imagine being a head coach right now?
No. I've never had any aspirations of being a coach. I guess if I really, really thought hard about it, you could wrap your head around certain aspects of it. But man, like, just all that you have to deal with being a head coach, and you know, the way you have to be in front of the team every single day. I think more so just the scheme part of it. I think as a player, there's a certain part of it that you know, and as a quarterback, you're always simplifying things so that you can go out there and play fast. But to be on top of everything and to be able to teach every single position on an offense or defense, and then like put it all together and build it, it's impressive. It's really impressive. And I know he's played, and I know he's been in it, but it's different than teaching other people. So yeah, it's definitely pretty cool to see. You can see, obviously, that he's been motivated since he's been done playing, and probably even at some point when he was playing, to do something like this. So a lot of credit to him.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, guys.